Hi, I recently tracked down and watched the 1981 film The Appointment. It's something that I had been looking into covering for the podcast, something that might be neglected and worthy of rediscovery. But on watching it, I found that this is probably not the case. It's the only feature film written and directed by Lindsey Vickers and stars Edward Woodward as a businessman who is forced to attend a business meeting on the same day that his daughter is to give a violin recital. The relationship between the two is implied to be extremely intense and almost inadvisable in some way. And he heads out on his journey, and a series of strange events occur. The previous night, he has dreams of being attacked by black dogs, as seemingly black dogs invade the house during the middle of the night. And a truck with a decal of black dogs along the side appears to follow him along the roadway. But the film itself is 90 minutes, and there isn't enough material here really for anything more than half that. I described it as feeling like an episode of Hammer House of Horror that somehow got away from its makers. It could easily be a 45 or 50-minute anthology episode, because although the film relies a great deal on a slow pace and a sense of dread and mood and mystery, it's far too strung out, and there just isn't enough movie in this movie. There's also some bizarre choices regarding geography. It's established early on that Woodward's family live in Oxfordshire, and he is seen driving up the M3 to London for his meeting. The M3 goes nowhere near Oxfordshire, and at one point he even pulls off at Fleet Services, very close to where I used to live, which was rather surprising. But the final sequence of him driving was clearly filmed in North Wales, nowhere near anything that would look like the type of landscape depicted. The film is perhaps most famous for a scene that's circulated on the internet virally of the final car crash, which is bizarrely directed and extremely protracted, ending in the bizarre sight of the car standing on its end on the edge of a cliff. Vickers doesn't have much sense of how to pace a story. There's a great deal of mood and atmosphere and a sense of creeping dread, but it takes so long for anything to actually happen that it dissipates almost immediately. Perhaps the best part of the film is an opening prologue that was added just to bunk up the film's rating, the film's running time rather, in which a girl walking home through the woods from school is suddenly assaulted by an invisible force. It's a bizarre and very unnerving sequence that the rest of the film is unable to replicate, instead stretching everything out far longer than it needs to. Overall, I found it to be very disappointing and not at all living up to its reputation. Quite excessive in its conviction of its own quality. Really, it should have worked as a mid-length film or an episode of an anthology series. It was planned on being the first in a series of twist in the tail or supernatural type films, bizarrely funded entirely by the pension fund of the National Coal Board. But I think based on this, they decided that their investments could be better used elsewhere. I agree.